Hey guys! Part 2 of What If Naruto Has No Chakra? Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start! Chapter 4, Escalation. Kidameru was having a bad day. Not bad as in pretty bad, but not the worst I've had, but bad as in fuck this can't get any worse. He and the rest of the Sound 4 were currently outside the base, fighting with Orochimaru against the freaking Sandaime Hokage and two of his men. One was sick-looking guy wielding a sword who was good enough to hold his ground against the Sannin in a blade duel, whereas the other was a snake-summoning girl with apparently no sense of decency. Seriously, how could she fight with that attire? Yet, it was the toughest battle Kidameru had ever fought. Considerably worse than Kimimara's legendary trashing. In his case, it was a hopeless boss fight, but here, it must be the final boss, the gamer thought, shooting arrows at the enemy team while being protected by Jiruba's ramparts of earth. Meanwhile, both Sakan and Yukon were struggling with the snake girl, who was unleashing volley upon volley of explosive kunais at their faces, and Tayuya was preparing a sound-based genjutsu. It should be noted all the Sound 4 had unleashed the full power of the Curse Seal. And then, the old Hokage is probably going to adopt a monstrous monkey-based super form. A final boss always does that shit. Fortunately, Tayuya's illusion finally took effect by paralyzing the sword guy on place. Kidameru instantly seized the opportunity by firing 3 arrows at his target's head, heart, and spine. The golden projectiles impacted with a sickening sound, forming bloody wounds. The man fell from the strikes, dead before he hit the ground. 1 down, 2 more to go, Kidameru noted, finally feeling like a winner. I must have leveled up. Now gotta get more XP. An arrow covered with explosive seals hit Tayuya's back, causing a large blast. For a second, the Spider-Man was at loss of words. Wait, it wasn't me, so... He turned around, as one blonde archer emerged from the base, switching from the bow to a strange device. Oh come on, not new flunkies. Jiruba groaned and made hand seals to crush the new threat, only to be cut into 24 pieces by a masked ANBU, wielding a sword and wearing a cat mask. The Tonto was wrapped in wind, and would probably cut even stone. Fuck! Tayuya swore, recovering from the sneak attack. As she moved her flute to her lips, her attacker activated his device, a long metal rod connected to his bag by a cable. In an instant, it unleashed a long, bright stream of fire at the girl, making her scream in agony as her clothes and skin started burning. Atlas' secret technique. The blonde chuckled maniacally. Ninja barbecue. Yes, it was all about psychological warfare, and Kidameru knew damn well it was meant to be intimidating, but the hint of sadism in the guy's voice was all too real to ignore. That, and Sakan and Yukon were getting strangled to death by snakes, leaving the Spider-Man as the only guard still standing. Gotta escape, gotta escape. At that moment, the masked ANBU noticed her dead teammate, her killing intent flaring fiercely. She stared at the golden arrows, then at Kidameru's bow, and finally at his face. I'm so screw was his last thought before the sword of a very angry woman sliced him in half. And it started so well, Orochimaru inwardly cursed, dodging a blow from his sensei's monkey staff. Pushing back the old geezer with a wind jutsu, the Sannin wondered how the hell his teacher could have been informed of his presence in the land of rivers. A mole, he decided, there is a mole in Akatsuki. And what is Sasori doing? Snakes sprung toward him, an attack he easily countered when his own reptiles emerged from his sleeve. Anko-chan. He chuckled at his former pupil. How long has it been since we crossed paths together? 12 years? It feels like a century for me, and far too long. The lady threw a dozen kunai at his face. You used me as a guinea pig, what can I say? You weren't fit to serve as my new body. I had to go seek a better one. Can you imagine the time I lost because of you? He shot back, trying to anger her in hopes she would slip up, while countering the projectiles with his Kusanagi. As expected, Anko snarled and entered the range of his control. Yes! He shouted, activating the curse seal on his student's neck, and apparently failing, as Anko shot a fireball at him, unfazed. Creating a wall of earth as protection, the Sannin quickly guessed the reason of his failure. You had Jiraiya place a seal to contain mine? It was an experiment from Danzo, actually, Sarutobi said, leaping next to Anko and making hand seals. Fire release, fire dragon flame bullet, wind release, heaven's breath. The snake lady added, as the streams of wind and fire fused into a large, deadly inferno. Rash omen! Orochimaru snarled, upon summoning the gigantic gate as protection. I have no choice, he thought. I will have to use the Edo Tens. A cat-masked Anbu attacked from his left side, attempting a vertical slash that would have probably cut him in half, hadn't he been faster. Parrying with the Kusanagi, Orochimaru shattered her mask with a punch and prepared to behead the woman, while she was dizzy from the blow. Unfortunately, Naruto-kun fired an arrow at his face, which he barely avoided. "Get away from her!" he shouted, upon preparing a second shot. The Anbu seized the opportunity to regain her momentum and prepare another strike. "This is getting too complicated to deal with. Besides, I have to secure my experiments," Orochimaru thought, dodging both a sword swing and a second arrow. "Sensei, it will have to wait for another time, but I'm going to leave a mark of my passage." "As you wish," the Sannin snarled, upon closing the gap between him and the blonde with a shunshin. Before the boy could blink, the missing nin shoved the Kusanagi through his chest, cutting through ribs and spilling blood. Then he callously tossed the body to the side. "Now, if the Kyuubi wouldn't mind speeding up, brat," Anko roared, upon seeing her apprentice's state. Her killing intent increased and turned nearly unbearable. "You will pay for that, old asshole." "Yes, yes," Orochimaru snorted derisively, smirking when his plan started working. Red chakra surrounded the bloody blonde, adopting the shape of a beast. "Maybe you focus on your apprentice first. Who knows, he might shed his skin and turn into a fox." As expected, the group became more preoccupied by the Uzumaki than by Orochimaru, who vanished through the earth. "Next time," he whispered, as Sarutobi rushed to Naruto's side. "Next time, old geezer." He was in a sewer. A fucking sewer. And he had one hell of a headache. "Hello, is there someone here?" Naruto shouted, before arriving in front of a large, dark cage. "Hey, is this some kind of underground zoo?" Claws nearly went past the bars, much to the blonde's amazement. "Pitiful maggot," a deep, inhuman voice resonated, as two giant red eyes shined in the dark. "I would gladly kill you if I could get past this damnable seal." "Well, the feeling is mutual, asshole." Naruto glared at what was most obviously the Kyuubi. "You ruined my life. I saved it, arrogant worm." The fox leaned its head against the bars, glaring at the teen. "Without my chakra you would be laying in your blood. So you will treat me with the respect I deserve." "Respect? Respect is earned, not given. And you've done nothing to earn respect from me. Your chakra sabotaged my body, you jerk." Naruto pointed a finger at the beast. "And why did you do it, in the first place? To make me dependent on you? As revenge for being sealed? Answer me, you old fox." The creature stayed silent a few seconds, and then exploded into roaring laughter, and increased the volume once Naruto creased his eyebrows. After a long laugh, the beast calmed itself, and answered with the most derisive tone possible. "To spite you." Naruto's eyes snapped open at that comment, and he left the sewer for a white hospital room. "You furry little piece of Atlas, please do not finish that sentence as long as I am within earshot." Kat leaned her head over to lock eyes with her teammate. She had dropped the ANBU uniform and mask for a black, sleeved robe. "And please calm yourself. You are still weak. You should listen to your teammate, young man." Sarutobi Hiruzen opened the only windows, and then sat next to the blonde's bed, on a small chair. "Especially since you were under anesthesia not so long ago." Naruto took his breath for a few seconds, dizzy and confused. After managing to calm himself, he stared at his limbs. He was wearing a hospital gown, and had bandages over his skin. "Where am I? And how long was I out?" "You were comatose for around 3 days, the Hokage replied softly. "We are in Konoha's hospital. You were transferred here as fast as I could. Fortunately, your days aren't numbered." I remember a flash of red, pain, and power and blood. The memories were disjointed, as if he hadn't been in full control back then. "It was the Kyuubi's chakra, I think. When Orochimaru stabbed you, the seal responded by allowing the Kyuubi to send you some of its power." Kat took his hand gently. "Due to your undeveloped chakra pathways, the process both caused internal damage and accelerated cellular multiplication. The chakra hurt and cured you at the same time, so you must have lost a few years to live." "Nice," the blonde deadpanned, slightly feeling uneasy about the physical contact. "It was the lesser evil. The Kusunagi's poison is lethal, but fortunately, the Kyuubi's chakra expunged it from your bloodstream." The Hokage snorted. "However, your body was so tired it entered a state of deep sleep after the demon's chakra receded into the seal." "I see, got to do some exercises," the ninja said upon pushing Kat's hand away and rose from his bed. Sarutobi creased his eyebrows disapprovingly, as his protégé's feet touched the ground. You should rest a bit more. 3 days is already too long in my book, he shot back while doing some stretching. What happened to Orochimaru? And Gekko? Did he? Kat's depressed expression told it all, and Naruto suddenly realized she was dressed for mourning. Oh shit. I'm sorry I didn't. It's nothing, the ANBU replied stoically. It's nothing. Sarutobi's expression worsened. Kat, would you kindly leave the two of us, and get some rest? You haven't slept enough, and I have to talk with the boy privately. As Hokage-sama wishes, she said with a sharp nod, bowing slightly before leaving the room and two men in silence. The old man sighed, and brought his pipe out from under his robes. She is deeply wounded. Those two were lovers, and Hate Gekko's funeral happened this morning. I see. Naruto lowered his eyes, upon learning the man's real name. I didn't know this Hate Gekko enough to befriend him, but it's sad he's leaving a loved one behind. His eyes widened. Wait, the funeral was this morning. How long had she been watching over me? Since after she took an hour to mourn over his grave. Sarutobi lit his pipe. You received your wound saving her life, so it isn't that surprising. Shouldn't you avoid smoking in an hospital? Naruto's eyes flickered toward the window. And who else came to see me? The old man grinned like some affable grandfather. It shall be our little secret. Enko visited you as many times as she could, along with Irika. Guy's team came, I am too, and even Sasuke Uchiha. Memories rushed to his mind, making the blonde panic. Oh hell, I forgot. Orochimaru spoke of someone called Sasori, and said I was under our radar. I think more than one missing nin is involved, and they have been observing me long enough to know who I am friends with. Snakey threatened to kill them if I wasn't obedient. They may be in danger, Sarutobi scowled. Counterintelligence isn't what it used to be, he noted dryly. I will do what is necessary to protect them. NBU watchers should be good. I would ask that you reduce your social activities, but that may tip off the moles that you do care for them. Go ahead and visit the Ikarakas, your team, Guy's team, and maybe Irika Yumino and Uchiha Sasuke. The latter is already under closer surveillance by my men, but please avoid everyone else. We wouldn't want a growing list of hostages. Too true. Then, how did you guess Orochimaru would? He blinked. You have moles among his men? I have moles in every organization worth infiltrating, young man. Sarutobi released a cloud of smoke from his lips. I see you guessed why I arrived so quickly to rescue you. Naruto nodded darkly. I was a bait for the snake, wasn't I? Yes, the old man replied bluntly. I had been informed he was looking forward to sabotaging the daimyo summit. Hence I sent you to it. My student was too greedy to miss the opportunity of capturing a bijou so easily, and too proud to realize it was all part of a grander plan. I didn't inform you, or anyone else on your team, because I was afraid Orochimaru might have seen through your acting. Whereas genuine surprise, Sarutobi glanced at the teen's belly. Soon after your birth, one of my most trusted friends and one of our best seal crafters, Danzo, added a failsafe to the Yondame's seal, allowing the two of us and my remaining teammates to track you, should you be abducted. Since Kumogakure has a penchant for kidnapping young shinobi, we thought it would be for the best to keep a way to keep track of you, should the ANBU not be enough to protect you. The old man narrowed his eyes. I apologize for using you. But you must understand, it was a calculated risk. I never imagined my student would rather see you dead than not in his hands. Hey, you're the military commander, and we soldiers are supposed to take risks, Naruto replied, secretly preparing his revenge. Yes, you used me as a bait, but I'm sure it was worth it. If I want to be in the NBU, I have to expect being sacrificed for the big picture. Sarutobi blinked. You are taking this far. On a whim, Naruto attempted to kick the sandame between his legs, and hurt his feet. Ouch! He cursed, as the Hokage grinned ear to ear. It feels like iron. These are steel underpants, the old man corrected proudly. You don't think you're the first who tried this dirty trick on me, do you? My baby grandson attempted that a week ago. He let go a disappointed sigh. I expected a better prank from you. Sorry, I was in a rush. Naruto sat on his bed and massaged his foot. I will do better next time. Yes, I'm angry to be turned into a pawn, but since I'm pretty sure the plan paid off, I won't complain. You're the boss, it's your job to make difficult decisions. Unfortunately, a difficult choice is a possibility all ninjas can face, Sarutobi whispered sadly, and if you are to serve in the NBU, you will struggle with it your whole life. The plan was a heavy blow to Orochimaru's activities in the Land of Rivers. His private guard has been exterminated, his staff captured and being interrogated, and his installations secured. Unfortunately, my old student got away, and his research findings were smuggled away during the fighting, except that substance. Naruto kept to himself. He would have to give it to the Hokage if he were to talk, and he had plans for it. Orochimaru all but admitted being the one who bombed the summit. So you were informed. Truth to be told, even if I were to inform the Kazekage about it, without any evidence to back it up, he would not believe me. He thinks we caused the bombing and put the blame on Suna as a pretext to start a conflict, or as a ploy to increase frontier taxes to further wrecking his land's economy. The Hokage snorted. Diplomatic relationships are such a mess. With enough luck and efforts, we might avoid a conflict, but my student has successfully weakened the Konoha-Suna alliance. Alright. What do we do next? I will take care of a delicate diplomatic crisis, the old man chuckled. You, on the other hand, will take a break, until I find you a new mission to undertake. You will receive payment for an A-rank mission due to your services, and an additional reward. The teen raised his head in interest. Which is? I was told you asked Enko about your heritage. Time stopped for a split second, before Naruto found the strength to answer with a nod. Why are you keeping it a secret? Because I thought you didn't have the maturity yet to accept some distasteful facts about your family. Sarutobi intertwined his fingers. But the more I see you, the more I think you are ready. However, I must warn you, you won't appreciate everything I'm about to reveal. I'm not some kid whining when told painful truth. Naruto crossed his arms. Enko told me the home of the Uzumaki clan, the land of whirlpools, sank for no reason, a reason called Bijou. The Hokage lit his pipe and brought it to his lips. The Uzumaki and Uzushiogakure had developed sealing arts with the potential of calling entities like the Shinigami, or binding the Kyubi, and foreign countries had grown afraid of them. The Sanbai, the three-tailed turtle, destroyed Yuzu with a gigantic tidal wave. I am convinced the third Mizukage released the beast for this purpose, although I cannot prove it. Where there was once a proud nation and people, only floating ruins and eternal whirlpools remained. So the Yondaime did indeed copy their techniques? He was taught these techniques by your mother, Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto's eyes widened at the name. She was one of the few survivors of the disaster, and she came to live in Konoha later. She was a close friend of Minato Namikaze and… The old man dropped the bomb. And she was the Kyubi's former prison. The former she was a Jinchuriki, as was Mito Uzumaki, the wife of the first Hokage. Sarutobi shrugged his shoulders. Uzumaki and Senju had close bonds, before both clans nearly died out. Hashirama's wife followed him to the Valley of the End, and when Madara Uchiha controlled the Kyubi to kill his rival, she had it sealed in herself. Later, at the end of her life, she passed the burden to your mother in secret. Few in the shinobi world were aware of this. The Sandaime nodded. Uzumaki are gifted with a strong life force and longevity. As such, they make the perfect containers for the tailed beasts. I cannot be sure you inherited this blessing, yet, the family curse was passed to you when you were born. But if my mother was the previous container… Naruto trailed off. Then, how did it escape? The seal was weakened during her childbirth, Sarutobi said. I cannot be sure of what truly happened, due to a lack of living witnesses, but it appears the seal broke soon after your birth, and the Kyubi was unleashed upon our city. The Yondaime was overseeing your birth, and managed to seal the beast into you before it could destroy all of Konoha, at the cost of his life. Sarutobi carefully left out some details about the other side of Naruto's family. The ninja was still recovering, and too much information might cause him to commit thoughtless actions. So, my mother was a Jinchuriki, must explain I couldn't find anything on her by myself. Naruto raised his eyes. Do you have a photo? A picture? I have a few I was keeping for you, when you were of age. Come to my office tomorrow, and I will give them to you, along with her dossier. Sarutobi sighed. Since her home was destroyed during the Kyubi's rampage, I am afraid it's the last mementos we have from her. Although he was angry at the man to have withheld this information for so long, Naruto realized something was amiss with the Sandaime's explanations. The fact my mother was the former prison of the Kyubi's prison does not strike me as distasteful. I mean, if she was willing to run the risk of releasing the beast by bearing me, she must have loved me a lot. Sarutobi smiled kindly. Indeed. She loved you with all her heart. He placed his pipe on his lap, his expression turning serious. As for the distasteful facts, you are not the only descendant of the Uzumaki still alive to this day. There is another confirmed as such. Your cousin, actually. Naruto froze. Another. I still have a living relative? You share the same grandfather, Sarutobi explained, scowling. But he is a renowned war criminal and mass murderer wanted across the continent. I was afraid if you were informed too early, you might foolishly try seeking him out for knowledge I did not have, and face a terrible fate for your trouble. War criminal? The fact his only relative still alive belonged to such kind was shameful and painful. Would you mind giving me his name? You have been too careless, Orochimaru. And why did you harm the Uzumaki? You were supposed to keep him safe until I could speak with him. The Sannin snorted at his partner. If he had come faster to the base, none of this debacle would have happened. I was curious about Enko, and I wanted to make clear we had the means of causing him pain, should he defy us. I couldn't guess my old sensei had put a tracker on him. As for the wound, I wished to see if he could be of use to us, by tapping into the Bijuu's chakra. Sasori narrowed his eyes dangerously. You have wasted some of our aces, he complained. You have revealed sensitive information that should have stayed between the two of us. Especially the samsara, the bomb, and the fact we have eyes in Konoha. Pain will be very, very angry. Although Orochimaru couldn't care less about his superior's comfort, Leader was a force to be feared and handled with care. On the contrary, it will benefit us, he replied. Konoha will think we placed the bomb on our own, and as such, will not suspect the Kazekage of being in our pocket. The invasion will be facilitated. This is a risky game you are playing, the puppeteer countered. It could have gone wrong in many ways. There is no victory without risk. One must know how and when to gamble, unlike my old teammate. Orochimaru crossed his arms. As for our eyes in Konoha, Sarutobi-sensei will drive himself paranoid trying to identify them, without success. In the same way Leader will be obsessed with finding Konoha's mole. Sasori nodded gravely. Only the 10 rings were aware we intended to attack the summit. Meaning at least one of them is a traitor. The two of us, Zetsu, Leader and Konan, are above suspicions. I cannot see Deidara or Kisame doing it. Kakuzu, Itachi, and Tobi are the most likely suspects. I will investigate further. The Sannin smiled inwardly at the above suspicions comment, since they were all wanted war criminals and traitors, but didn't comment. As for Samsara, Naruto-kun won't say anything. He stole the substance from my lab. The puppeteer's head jerked to the side, much to Orochimaru's morbid amusement. You believe he might keep it for himself? If he informs Sarutobi, the substance will be confiscated, and all his hopes of gaining chakra of his own will die as well. If he informs Sarutobi without telling he has the substance, my sensei will grow suspicious. Orochimaru smirked. He is obviously affected by his shortcomings. It's only a matter of time before he tries the drug on himself, gets addicted and comes begging us for more. Uzumaki cells are used in the serum, along with your special enzymes, so we cannot guess what kind of side effects might happen with him, Sasori noted. Regardless, until we have found a way to remove Naruto's tracker, we aren't to start any action against him. Better focus on the other Jinchuriki, and on further testing the samsara. Orochimaru grinned wickedly. I have the perfect test candidate ready. After leaving the hospital and getting his clothes, bag, and weaponry back, Naruto moved to visit Konoha's memorial, and pay his last respects to Gekko's soul. Afterward, he wandered aimlessly, thinking about what to do next. He should visit Kat, that was obvious. She was probably depressed about her loss and emotional support would probably be appreciated. The problem was, he had no idea where she lived. Finally awake, Sasuke's voice resonated, as the boy jumped in front of him. The Uchiha was covered with bruises, but his face contained a hint of happiness at seeing his rival standing. I was playing Sleeping Beauty, and waited for a princess to wake me up with a kiss. So far, I have been unlucky, Naruto deadpanned. As you can see, my latest mission roughed me up a bit. Not so much as mine, Sasuke shrugged. I've got the feeling we're going to compete for the most astonishing story, and they did compete. Although Naruto left out some details and pretended he and his sensei had simply been caught in the crossfire of a military operation. So, let's make it clear in my mind, Naruto began, once the Uchiha finished. The bridge builder you escorted lied about the mission? In fact, he was targeted by some powerful businessman who had taken over the Land of Waves by installing a blockade? And Sai managed to send a message to Konoha about the situation with an animated painting? Sasuke nodded. And Gato sent Zabuza of the Mist, one of the most notorious missing nin from Kiri, to kill Tazuna? And your team managed to beat him on your first meeting, before an accomplice disguised as a hunter nin faked his death? And that same hunter nin was a boy looking like a girl called Haku, and he could use an ice-based bloodline limit? He approached me passing for a civilian, Sasuke shrugged. I managed to see past his act with the Sharingan analyzing his body movements, and we talked about our respective pasts. He had a pretty shitty life, and in the end, I let him go. Naruto didn't voice the fact he would have probably killed the boy to avoid further problems, but let the Uchiha continue. He and Zabuza attacked the bridge later, but Team 8 and 10 had arrived by the time, and then, predictably, you wasted these two. Kakashi managed to kill Zabuza with a ball of lightning, while Kurenai was trapping him in a genjutsu. All genin ganged up on Haku, and although he almost killed Ino and Chuji, you, fighting against your pity for the boy, managed to kill him with a fireball. Then Gato got the bright idea to crash the party with an army of mercenary to kill everybody. And predictably, the Jounin butchered them all without breaking a sweat. You should have seen it. I almost felt bad for the guys, to be honest. Sasuke shrugged. The bridge was finished and called the Great Leaf's Bridge for our trouble. It's definitively a more astonishing story than mine. Depends. You participated in an operation against the second greatest missing nin of the Leaf, killed one member of his private guard, got stabbed by Orochimaru defending an ANBU and managed to live the tale about it, Sasuke resumed. It's a lot more impressive. Well, to be truthful, I kind of shot that girl in the back and burned her alive 2 seconds later. Had it been a straight duel, I think she would have kicked my ass. And getting stabbed is nothing to brag, he stopped, upon noticing a familiar pink-haired girl approaching. Sakura-san. How are you, Naruto-san? Her displeasure was clear. Judging by her eyes moving at Sasuke, she had probably planned to hang out with him and been surprised by the blonde presence. I am fine, thanks. Still angry at me for defeating you? Naruto guessed, causing her to scowl. Nothing personal, it was a bet, and I had something to gain out of it. I had nothing against you. It's not to me you should say that, she complained angrily. It's to Hinata. It actually made the blonde blink. What about Hinata? She just fainted on the spot before I could do anything. Sakura stared at him blankly. You have no idea she has a crush on you, do you? Naruto laughed at that, and stopped upon realizing she was serious. Oh, come on. She, the Hyuga heiress, having a crush on me? The no-name dropout? Suddenly, the fainting made sense. The girl had an abysmal lack of confidence in herself, and certainly, the fact he even approached her had been too much to bear. Yes, Haruno confirmed, the one girl that had a crush on you. And due to her loss to a no-name dropout, I was told her clan was punishing her with extra training. Naruto paled. So I humiliated a girl with no confidence who had a crush on me, and I didn't realize it until now. Dumbass, Sasuke summed it up nicely. The Hyuga compound was a nice place where to live, in Hayashi's not-so-humble opinion. It was large, peaceful, with a huge garden, ponds, and training grounds. Only Hyuga were allowed entry into this sanctuary away from the troubles inherent to great cities. Hayashi, head of the Hyuga clan, was currently overseeing his eldest daughter's session while drinking some tea. Hinata was sparring against Niji, and losing badly. Not that it was surprising. Hisashi's son was a genius, and Hayashi's daughter, a constant disappointment. After her humiliating defeat against the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, Hayashi had increased the pace of her training and took all her free time away. In his mind, he had been too lenient with her, and should have pushed her harder. The fact he had focused too long on Hanabi had left him blind to his eldest child's shortcomings, and he intended to correct that. If a teen without chakra could defeat her so easily, then she would get killed quickly on the field, and Hayashi wouldn't lose a family member ever again. The session could have gone peacefully, but then a blonde cockroach crashed it without warning. Excuse me, the Uzumaki scoffed, appearing out of nowhere. Can I interrupt this for a few minutes? Hayashi glanced briefly at the teen in anger. How could he have passed the security so easily? What were the guards doing? What do you want, Uzumaki? He asked icily, while Hinata suddenly stared down like a beaten puppy, and Niji exchanged polite nods with the newcomer. I would like to apologize to your daughter for what happened last time we crossed paths, he replied, bowing deeply before Hinata, much to her shock. Please excuse me. It wasn't nice on my part. While his daughter was too astonished to reply anything and blushed heavily, Hayashi glared at him. You attacked my daughter in broad daylight, for a bet of all things. Be happy the Hokage convinced me not to take actions against you for this. The blonde cringed. All right. It is good you realize your mistake, but you should be punished for your immature behavior, and learn to consider the consequences of your actions. As a father, I will give you this lesson. Hayashi set his tea aside. Since you have illegally entered clan grounds, I, as the clan head, challenge you to a duel. If the blonde was surprised or intimidated, he didn't show it. In fact, he seemed to expect it. Where and when? He asked. In 2 hours, at the stadium for the Chunin exams, the clan head replied, intending to punish him in front of as many people as he could. Refusing to be present will equal to a surrender. No way, Naruto narrowed his eyes. Clan head or not, I'm going to. Hayashi-sama, Niji cut in. May I be allowed to speak with this dropout before the fight? Hayashi nodded and dismissed them both with a hand gesture. The Hyuga prodigy took upon himself to bring back his rival to the gate, before speaking bluntly. Surrender. You cannot win. Of course I can, Naruto replied infuriated. He's a clan head, yes, but he's all about the gentle fist. Against me, this is. It will be useless until he decides to target the organs, the prodigy shot back. Due to your lack of chakra pathway system, none of us Hyuga can paralyze you or defeat you by closing your tenketsu, but we can surgically inject our chakra in your organs without relying on the pathways. It is far less precise, and as such, more dangerous. Naruto scowled but said nothing, letting his friend continue. Without a pathway to direct our chakra, these strikes cause internal damage which can be permanent. Hayashi will not hesitate to resort to this when he realizes he cannot defeat you the cleaner way. Hence, since he's a jounin, surrender, or your entire career might end in 2 hours. The blonde's expression had progressively worsened. You can do that too, isn't it? He accused him. You were holding back all along. Why? For the same reason I hold back against Lee and Tenten. Because I might accidentally cripple you permanently if I get too careless. Niji locked eyes with his friend. Look, you're a failure, but you are also dear to my heart. It won't be my fate to end you. Naruto stayed silent, before grinning. Ah, so you do care about me. The blonde gave him a light tap to the back. Well then, I will have to go straight to Plan B. Niji blinked in surprise. Plan B? By this point, you should know I never have just one plan. He glared at the genin. Make no mistake, our conversation isn't over. Once I have beaten your uncle, you and I will fight, and we will see who's the strongest, and this time, no holding back. Dosu, Zaku snorted, upon seeing the town. That's the place Orochimaru-sama asked us to burn? It's not that important looking, you're missing the big picture. Had the idiot forgotten this city was under Suna's jurisdiction? The bandaged genin searched inside his bag. I waited years for this moment. Now, it was his turn to burn people. It's payback time, tree huggers. You should have killed me when you had the chance, instead of burning my skin and leaving me to rot. 'Cause I'm going to make your life miserable. How many ninjas are stationed here? Kin asked, sounding worried. 3 dozen, mostly genin on permission and a few chunin. Dosa snorted, bringing out a Konoha headband and a syringe. He put the former on his forehead, and prepared the latter. At the first sign of trouble, the news will reach Suna in a heartbeat. And, it's only the 3 of us? Zaku paled. That's insane. No, Dosa corrected, injecting the ooze-like product into his veins. It's only me. You two are just here to warn me should reinforcements come. As he felt the samsara filling his body, Dosa groaned. Just watch, and learn. Much to Naruto's surprise, not many people were present at the stadium. He had expected at least 100 people present merely to see the hated Kyuubi reborn humiliated, and they were 3 dozen at best. Sarutobi, who had Perry sitting on his lap, an old one-armed man sitting next to him, Team Guy, Team 7, Team 8, Team 10, Cat, and finally Anko, oh, and all the parents of the genin he beat. And Kiba's sister. It was hard to miss her. He's the guy who kicked your ass? Hana Inuzuka asked her brother. He's cute, but he doesn't look that tough, sis. Kiba whined, while Akamaru growled. He looks harmless, but he's a sneaky, cheating, arrogant bastard. Technically it is not arrogance, since he beat all of us, Shino noted. He is stronger than you, Sai nodded. Your dog is smarter than you, if you truly expected him to play fair, he said, exemplifying his lack of social skills by angering Kiba even further. Oi brat! Anko shouted. I'd bet 1 million ryo on your ass. So you better show the stuff you're made of. I'm with you, Naruto-kun. Lee jumped in place. Lee! Guy clenched his fist. We must ignite the fires in him with our encouragements. Louder! Tenten cringed, quickly imitated by all of Team 10. Are they always like that? Ino asked their teammate, who nodded in a depressed manner. Finally, Hayashi entered the stadium, and, as expected, he hadn't activated the Byakugan. Perfect, the blonde thought, as the man walked into the trap, completely unaware he had lost the fight before it started. Now let's get this party started. Before we start, Hokage-sama, Naruto shouted, attracting everyone's attention, I would like to ask something to my honored opponent. There were some words in the audience, and the old man nodded. Naruto locked eyes with his opponent. Would you mind activating your Byakugan to defeat me? Think of it as a last request. Hayashi said no word, but gave a sharp nod. Ready? The Hokage asked. Start. Silently, veins pulsated around Hayashi's eyes, and he paled in horror. Here are my conditions, and they aren't negotiable. First, you surrender. Second, you swear on the Hokage's head to take no further actions against me. And thirdly, you cease to push your daughter around for having been defeated by an opponent that just beat you. You have 5 minutes before I activate them. And don't try anything rash. I will detonate them if you even fake trying to close the gap. And since this is a duel recognized by the Hokage, I will walk away free if you die or are maimed. Think wisely. Think quickly. He would have asked him to remove the seal on Niji's head as well if he could, but if Naruto were to ask too much, Hayashi would probably refuse. It will be for another time. While Hayashi's pure fury and killing intent entertained Naruto to no end, the reactions of the assistants topped it. What? Was the most common word. Sarutobi merely smiled, and the one-armed man nodded sharply. Told you he would win without lifting a finger, Enko gloated to Kurenai. I see, Cat was the first to catch on. Ingenious. What happened? Ino wondered, frowning in confusion. Easy, Shikaku Nara sneezed, having guessed the second Hayashi paled. He trapped the field before the match began. Dirty but smart. Hinata, Shino whispered softly, could you activate your Byakugan please? Tell us what your father is seeing. The girl shyly nodded and obeyed. The second her bloodline kicked in, she gasped. She took her breath. Hundreds, explosive tags, and dynamite. You guys can't see it because they are under 2 feet of earth, but this entire arena save the area surrounding my current location is trapped with explosives, and if they detonate, which I can cause at will with a remote detonator hidden under my heel, the entire field will blow up, while I will be relatively unharmed. Naruto smiled. So, Hyuga-sama, what do you decide? This is cheating. Sakura whispered before her eyes widened. Wait, how did he manage to place them without it being noticeable? Certainly he got some assistance, Kakashi eyed Enko, who grinned wickedly. I see, you used the Doton technique to hide them underground? Hey, there is no law against being helped trapping a field with explosives 1 hour and a half before a match begins. Naruto made a mock reverence. I'm a mere law-abiding citizen. It's not my fault if my opponent didn't think outside the box and wasn't careful enough to activate his Byakugan beforehand. As for cheating, we're shinobi. The only law is to win, and I did. The Kaken's activation time is slower than the detonation, meaning at best you will lose a leg trying to resist. Hayashi radiated killing intent, and then calmed himself, briefly narrowed his eyes, and adopted a stoic expression. Indeed, he admitted, much to Naruto's surprise, my hubris took the better of me. I should have remembered you were a shinobi, and that all shinobi are to be feared, no matter how young they are. I will take this as a lesson of humility. Then, he bowed, albeit only slightly. The importance of the gesture wasn't lost on Naruto, whose jaw dropped. The reactions in the audience were similar. I hereby surrender, Hayashi said, upon straightening up, and swear on the Hokage not to take any action against you, and to be less strict with daughter from now on, for I understand now she had no chance against you from the very beginning. I see why Sandaime-sama respects you so much. Thank you, was the only answer Naruto managed to muster. Damn. I didn't see it coming. Sarutobi started clapping, quickly imitated by everyone else. Then, Hayashi used a shunshin to appear next to the Hokage, and they, along with the one-armed man, began to discuss. With a hand gesture, the old man invited Enko and Kat to join them. Alright. I got the feeling this is going to blow up in my face, the blonde thought, upon leaving the field and taking the detonator with him. Upon reaching the spectator seats, he was quickly welcomed by Guy's team and Team 7. Impressive showing, Naruto! Guy shouted loudly. See, Kakashi. I have won our bet. Did you say something? The copynin asked, his nose in a Ika book. I wasn't listening, as Guy went into a long tirade about how he was the only one taking their youthful rivalry seriously. Naruto gave a light tap on Niji's back. Why not tomorrow? The Hyuga smirked. I will check the field beforehand. Congratulations, Naruto-kun. Lee gave him a thumb up. You were awesome. Congratulations on using my explosives, Tenten smirked. You must have wasted most of your stock here. Who cares? I can get new ones. Oh, and the flamethrower is awesome. Naruto grinned wickedly. Nothing can beat the scent of fires in the morning. You sound like a psycho, Sasuke sneezed. Still it, student! Enko shouted for all to hear, leaping in front of the blonde, and hugging him. I'm promoted! Promoted, you hear me? Promoted? The genin repeated. You're a jounin, how can the ANBU? She must have been promoted to ANBU. Congratulations, crazy sensei, congratulations for your victory, Naruto Uzumaki, Cat added, upon using a shunshin to appear next to him. No doubt you will earn your promotion soon enough. Damn, they're such show-offs. His eyes snapped wide. Did you say my promotion? Enko chuckled, upon tightening her embrace. You thought you could beat a jounin in front of the Hokage and not be considered for promotion? Hayashi-sama told the Hokage someone with your skills shouldn't stay a genin any longer, and Sandaime-sama agreed. Cat locked eyes with him. Danzo Shimura, the ANBU commander, said he was favorably impressed by your shinobi view of a fight and that he had underestimated your potential, and said he would consider adding his vote to the proposition. You might become a Chunin of Konoha very soon, although you will stay under Enko-san's tutelage as part of a two-man squad regardless of your rank. Between the shock of the news and the lack of air caused by Enko's hugging, Naruto didn't find the strength to react beside short nods. Alright, let's go to the nearest bar to celebrate. The snake lady released her student, who fell on the ground, gasping for air. My pay, Sarutobi watched, amused, as Enko seized her apprentice in happiness. I am surprised you finally accepted her promotion, he told Danzo, once the two away from everybody else. Since my experimental seal can contain Orochimaru's, I see no reason to exclude her anymore. Danzo adopted a calculating look. Imagine if we managed to pierce the secret of the cursed seal. By combining it with my own, we could. I refuse to sacrifice 9 of our shinobi for one success, Sarutobi cut in, especially since the side effects are unpleasant. Point taken. Danzo observed Naruto. I admit, I underestimated his potential. If he could learn true discipline, he would become a welcome addition to our forces, eventually. Sarutobi raised an eyebrow, and his old friend elaborated. He has the intelligence, I will not deny it, and quite inventive, but he lacks wisdom, and is blind to the consequences of his actions in the long run. He is lucky Hayashi is wise enough to take his loss well, or your protege might have suffered retributions no matter the man's promises. He needs more maturity and foresight, and I am afraid Mitarashi will not teach it to him. We cannot allow him to become a Chunin until he wises up, but I am no longer opposed to a future promotion. Hence, why you accepted Enko's entry in the ANBU, Sarutobi guessed. As her apprentice, he will inevitably spend time with the group's members. Oh, I had a better idea in mind. The Warhawk smiled. It was brief, and out of character, putting the Sandaime on edge. Akatsuki has become a threat too large to be ignored. It needs special attention. He turned to face the Hokage. I think it is time we create a new division. Fires were consuming the city, and smoke filled Sokka's lungs. Yet, it could barely hide the scent of fresh blood and burning flesh. Then, crossing the gates, he returned. He was barely recognizable. His clothes were red and dirted, and his breath was heavy, but it was him. Dosu? Zaku shyly asked. Are you alright? Zaku, the monstrosity grinned, with fangs instead of teeth. I'm just getting started. Chapter 5, Laying the Trap. There is a mole among the 10 rings, Sasori spoke, locking eyes with the fellow missing Nin, and I think it's you. It took everything Itachi had not to blanch and confirm the puppeteer's suspicions. Years of training in the ANBU gave one a potent control over emotions, but the puppeteer was skilled enough to detect any subtle tell that a person might have. Absurd. I abandoned this place long ago. It was the truth. However, he doubted Sasori would believe him so easily. The puppet master had no doubt revealed his suspicions to better see the genius slip and blow his cover. He would be sorely disappointed. Sasori stared for a long time at the Uchiha's face, his mechanical eyes conveying its owner's suspicions. What kind of sick monster was hiding inside this armor of wood? Itachi had no idea. You're the only one of us with a possible motive, the accuser replied with a cold tone. Was it the price to keep your brother safe, I wonder? Information on us in exchange for his safety? He guessed right, unfortunately, but Itachi wasn't going to confirm any of his suspicions. I let my brother live because he was not worth my time, he stated coolly. Your suspicions are misguided. Let me tell you a story, Itachi. Sasori shook his puppet's head. When the organization was young, Hanzo the Salamander was defeated and caught by Pain. The proud, powerful leader of Amigakure, who defeated the 3 Sannin decades ago, was defeated soundly. His old age dulled his skills and he was no match for our all-powerful leader. There was an ominous pause. Do you know what kind of punishment Pain exacted upon him for resisting his will? He chained the man to a rock, and then brought his entire family before him. His sons, his daughters, his wife, his grandchildren, even his cousins. Itachi said nothing, then Pain strangled them all. One by one. With his bare hands. Hanzo begged for mercy, said they had nothing to do with his actions, and Pain replied, on that day, Hanzo would forever understand the meaning of the word suffering. The man was so traumatized by the experience he did not even resist when Pain snapped his neck in a brief moment of mercy. The puppet's tail wavered slightly. It would be a shame if it were to happen to you, don't you agree? Perhaps your worthless brother would be the one brought to you. The Sharingan would make you remember the scene until the very end of your life. If Pain lets you live, that is. Itachi did not know Pain well enough to decide if the story was true or not, but considering the self-proclaimed god wannabe ruled over Akatsuki with an iron fist, it was most certainly not an empty threat. And Madara probably had a nastier punishment waiting in his sleeve should his difficult student prove to be a traitor. It was Kisame who came to his partner's rescue. Sasori, I was with Itachi all the time this month, the shark man cut in. He couldn't have warned Konoha. I would have noticed it. Or perhaps did he simply put you under a genjutsu? Sasori countered with a stoic tone, before switching subject. No matter. I have come for the Jinchuriki, first and foremost. Kisame shrugged, and tossed the beaten old man at the puppeteer's feet. That's the Yambi's container, Rashi of Iwagakure. We ambushed him while he was resting in the forest. Didn't stand a chance against the two of us. Do we extract the bijou immediately? No, Sasori replied, seizing the broken ninja with his tail. You have another assignment. I laid a trap for the Gobi's Jinchuriki at these coordinates. He tossed a scroll to the Sharkman. The Nanabai's vessel has also been sighted in the area. Capture her if possible, but the Gobi is your priority. 3 Jinchuriki in the same day? Did you hit the jackpot when I wasn't looking? Kisame asked with a chuckle. That's going to be the most exciting day of my life. You don't mind if I rough them up a bit? As long as you capture them alive. I don't care if they lose a limb or two. Sasori turned around, but gave a potent glare at Itachi. I hope you will remember the side you're on, Uchiha, the puppeteer threatened him ominously, because I will keep your back in sight. The Uchiha stayed silent, as the man vanished from his view. Once he was certain Sasori was far away, he glanced at Kisame. Thank you, no problem. What happens between us stays between us. I'm not the kind of guy who would rat out a friend. Especially when he's still loyal to his homeland. Kill them maybe, but not rat them out. The Sharkman shrugged his shoulders. But seriously, I don't think you will be able to stay undercover for long now that Sasori is suspicious. How the hell did you inform Konoha, by the way? I'm curious. I did not. Kisame raised an eyebrow. Look, Itachi, it's not like I'm not aware of your true allegiance, and to be honest, I don't give a foo. I did intend to inform Konoha, but I found no way to do it in time, Itachi cut in. It's someone else who sold the information to the Leaf. But who? He had no idea. The Sharkman said nothing, and then chuckled. So Sasori managed to overlook 2 moles in Akatsuki? That's so funny. He knows everything but missed something that big. Itachi rolled his eyes, as his partner exploded into uproarious laughter. Phil was bored. It had been a year since she left Takigakure for the roads, trading a cage for freedom. At 14, after years of abuse, insults and cold stares, she decided to screw everybody and leave for a better life. It wasn't as if they tried to restrain her. In fact, in spite of the bijou she contained inside her body, they seemed glad to see her gone. Of course, the fact she was the 5th Jinchuriki of the Nanabai in the village's history to lose control over the beast at least once probably helped. They gave up on creating their little walking apocalypse, and didn't bat an eyelash when she left through the main gates with the travel bag on her back. Even her mom didn't come to tell her daughter goodbye. Fuck them all, she told herself. If she continued thinking about her former life, she might descend into depression, perhaps turning emo in the process. The fact her travels didn't distract her from her problems didn't seem to help either. How can the outside world be this freaking boring? The other girls just want to marry some nameless loser and the boys think I can't kick their ass cause I don't have balls. Some days I regret not being able to let Nana show them who's the biggest bada on the continent. And here she was, wandering aimlessly among green fields of grass with an empty stomach, no money, and no idea what to do next. Perhaps I should go find work in the nearest city. I wonder if they're looking for ninjas to hire. With her appearance, she wouldn't need much effort to pass a weird missing nin. Her tan skin, green hair, and amber eyes were quite unusual. She was wearing a kunoichi attire composed of a shirt with a fishnet armor underneath and red pants. Her belt was covered with special pockets containing all her weapons. Before she reached any destination of note, however, she stopped. Blinking in some confusion, she put her hands in her pants pockets and frowned. Who the hell are you? A man was standing still in the middle of the field. He was a giant standing at nearly 8 feet tall with strange brown eyes. He was wearing a massive red armor covering his entire body, save for aforementioned eyes, a black shirt and gloves. He was also wearing a ridiculous large rounded hat, and a slashed IWA headband. He was immobile, staring into the distance, like a statue. Hey! Fu waved her hand at him. What are you doing? The Han is waiting for a friend, the man replied with a deep tone. Please do not disturb the Han. The Han likes silence and to be in tune with the cosmos. Yes, the guy was that weird. Fu narrowed her eyes. The Han? What's that bullshit? First person cannot convey the magnificence of the Han, the giant replied. The Han cannot be limited by I, for the Han is the Han. You're a fucking weirdo. Yours words are pitiful howls in the wind compared to the iron will of the Han. Cease to bother him, or the Han will kick your ass with his steel boots. This grated Fu's nerves. The fact the guy talked in third person, she could tolerate. To some extent. But being looked down upon always made her go berserk. Who the hell do you think you are? You think you can beat me? I kicked the butt of a Jounin before I graduated as a genin. He shouldn't have tried to assassinate the vessel of a mighty bijou in her sleep. When the Han is going to beat you within an inch of a life, your last words won't be an appeal to the gods, but a thanks for the Han's merciful trashing. And next, the Han shall send you to crash into the moon with his bone-shattering spanking move. So do not test the Han's patience, for the wrath of the Han is limitless fury and unbending fire. Alright, that's enough nutcase. Fu snarled. I'm going to show what the strongest Jinchuriki in the world can do. The Han is unimpressed, for the Han is the strongest demon vessel in the entire galaxy. He nodded, upon noticing Fu's surprise. The Gobi is the Han's sidekick, for the Han is second to no one. You're the vessel of the 5 tails? Fu's jaw dropped, before she quickly corrected her expression. It was the first time she encountered another demon vessel, and she had no idea how to react. I see, sorry. I thought you were some haughty jerk. The Han accepts your apologies. The man narrowed his eyes at Fu. The Han would like to know which demon do you keep at bay, and what is your name, the 7 tails. She grinned warmly, happy to meet someone who shared her situation, even if he was completely nuts. I'm Fu. The Han is glad to meet you, Fu. The Han wonders what a mighty kunoichi like you is doing in the land of fire, so far from Taki. Mighty kunoichi? Fu beamed at the nickname. Finally, someone was recognizing her worth in spite of her gender. Well, I was traveling after saying fuck you to my village. Long short story, I've got nowhere to go, the Han understands. The Han gave the middle finger to IWA himself when the Kazekage did not recognize how awesome the Han had become. If she wishes, Fu can travel with the Han. He would be glad to have company of a fellow cursed one as he travels across the world. Really? Fu jumped on her feet. It was the first someone ever proposed her friendship. But aren't you waiting for a friend? The Han is waiting for Rashi, container of the 4 tails and drunkard extraordinaire. The giant crossed his arms. The Han discussed with him through letters, and he finally decided to leave IWA to travel with the Han at the Han's urging. But the Han is growing impatient and suspicious. Fu raised an eyebrow. Why? The Han has been waiting for 4 hours. Rashi might be a drunkard, but a late man he isn't. And who would dare make the Han wait? The giant shrugged. The Han hopes his friend isn't in trouble. Well, maybe he's in a city nearby? Fu suggested. Maybe he's staying in Konoha? It is true Rashi is plagued with thirst and may have succumbed to the lure of an open bottle and the scent of fresh sake. Fine, the Han is going to grace the leaf with his presence. He advanced toward the east. The Han will shatter their walls as a conqueror and, dude. Fu pointed a finger toward the west. Konoha is in the opposite direction. The madman stopped briefly. The Han knew that, he replied, backtracking. The Han was just testing your sense of orientation. The Han is proud of you. Fu palmed her face and groaned. You are all gathered here today because I'm awesome, Anko boasted, as she drank the sake. Gaze upon my holy figure and worship me. Sorry, you aren't goddess material. Naruto deadpanned. Folly. If Anko wasn't drunk, she wasn't far from it. I am supremely divine. What could be better than me, the ramen emperor of mankind? Everyone glanced at Naruto in a mix of confusion and, in his teacher's case, alcohol-induced rage. The snake lady had invited her student, Guy, Asuma, Kakashi, Kurenai, and their respective teams for her celebration. Well, she didn't invite the genin, but apparently Chuji menaced to go on a rampage if denied free food, and Anko wanted witnesses for her coronation. Sometimes, Naruto wondered who the hell decided to teach destructive jutsu to these people in the first place. Was he the only sane person around here? The Ramen Emperor, sitting on his orange throne, has been protecting mankind from the dangers of hunger for eons. With his mighty recipe, he defeated the junk food gods themselves and created an army of space cooks to bring the peace of ramen to all. A heavy silence followed his declaration, and Perry barked on his knees. For some reason, the animal had taken a liking to resting on his lap while his owner was sitting. Sarutobi, you evil mastermind, you corrupted my pet when I wasn't looking. Meh, Anko snorted. The Ramen Emperor is nothing before the Snake Empress. Blasphemy. Naruto pointed a finger at his sensei. Burn the witch. Suffer not the unclean to live. Many people cringed at the declarations. Let's just pretend this never happened, Tenten proposed. I will drink this scene into oblivion, Sakura deadpanned, bringing sake to her lips. As genin were legally adults in the village, it was probably her first celebration of the kind. Guess it would be quite hypocritical to teach children to kill each other, and then deny them access to alcohol. Naruto pondered before noticing the girl he was looking for, backing into a corner, fearful of others. Tenten, could you look after Perry for me? He asked while already deposing the platypus in front of his pal. What? The girl blinked in confusion, but her friend already left her alone with the animal. Hinata-san, can I speak with you? He approached her, doing his best to avoid Kiba's venomous glare. Privately, the little Hyuga became so red at the word privately Naruto feared she had misunderstood his intentions. She however nodded and followed him, as he sat around a table isolated from the others. Please take a seat, he asked, and she obeyed. The blonde waited for her to say anything, but she merely narrowed her head, too shy to speak to him. Look! Sakura told me about your crush. Somehow, she turned even redder. First, I'm sorry about what happened. I hurt your feelings, but, you must understand, you have to drop it. As her expression turned into one of pure despair, Naruto put a hand on her shoulder in a fraternal way. She gasped slightly at the contact, but it lessened her tension. It's not against you, Naruto explained. I have no interest in romance, period. I can't explain why, but in my current situation it wouldn't be wise for me to pursue any girl, or guy. He released his grip and laid back. That and, well, look at us. I'm an orphan with a really, really bad reputation in this town. My best friends either wear green spandex or are complete and utter assholes, and my teacher is an attention whore. And let's not talk about the debacle with your dad. You, on the other hand, are the heiress of the most preeminent clan in the Leaf now that the Uchiha kicked the bucket. Your standing is vastly above mine, and you're going to be one of the most powerful women in town. If your father knew about your crush, it would cause a scandal and give some of your family members distasteful ideas. Niji told me about what happened to his dad, and I don't want to see you get a seal because of me. In fact, I don't want to see you with a seal at all. So, please just move on and try pursuing someone else. The girl said no word, but nodded slightly. Naruto-kun, look, I don't even understand why you have a crush on me in the first place. I don't get it. How could a girl from your standing even pay attention to a dropout is beyond me. Because... She crossed her fingers. Because I admire you. Naruto opened his mouth, and yet no word came out of it. He was left speechless by the admission. What? With the Byakugan The Hyuga lowered her head. I know why you never used ninjutsu. Naruto blanched. She knew, he realized, she knew all along. Of course. A mere glancing from the Byakugan would be enough to learn about my condition. I see, I saw you train, you had every reason to give up, and yet you did not. She intertwined her fingers. Whereas I feel ashamed by my weakness, so, your courage inspired me. Hinata, Naruto whispered softly, making her gasp. I am touched. Really, it's the first time someone admired me. Look! He smiled at her. The fact I can't return your affection does not mean we cannot be friends. He presented her his hand. What do you think of it? I would also be glad to help you become a better ninja, if you wish. She looked at it, and after a moment of hesitation, shook it. All right. Naruto-senpai. Senpai? It warmed up his heart. Deal, Hinata Kohai. He rose up and gently led her with me. Let me present you somebody you should look up to. When they reached Tenten, the girl was glaring potently at Perry. Sit down, she ordered, and the animal obeyed. Roll out. The platypus rotated on place. On your feet. Bipedal mode. Much to Naruto's amazement, the pet hurriedly did as it was told. The blonde glanced at his pet, then at Tenten. He blinked, glanced at Perry, and then locked eyes with Tenten. How the fuck did you? I left it to you 5 minutes ago. Motivation. The girl glanced at Hinata, smiled, and saluted her. Hi, I'm Tenten. Nice to meet you. Hi. I'm Hinata. The Hyuga suddenly found the floor to be of a very peculiar interest, and it did not leave her sight. Tenten, Hinata has serious self-esteem problems. As a kunoichi of talent and unquestionable sanity, I believe you are the most capable person to solve the problem. Give her. He grinned. Motivation. Tenten's jaw dropped in surprise. Me? I've been training with you long enough to know you're the one keeping your team together. In Naruto's humble opinion, hadn't Tenten been there as mediator, Niji and Lee would have probably come to blows long before they could develop a friendship. Heck, the only other person I know who can motivate others easily is Guy, and yeah, imagine into what he would turn her into. Tenten shuddered, the image of a spandex-loving Hinata coming to her mind. Fine, she said with a light grin. But you gotta do something for me in return. Private lessons are costly nowadays. You sneaky, and charity? The love of your fellow? The kunoichi raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. I'm the daughter of a weapon seller, remember? I would be a moron to not profit when I can. Don't worry, she gave him a devilish smirk, I won't ask for much. Since it was pretty much the same grin Enko used each time she prepared to beat him up, Naruto discreetly looked for the restaurant's nearest exit. Fine, fine. How much do you want? We'll deal with that later. She gave a light tap on Hinata's back and took her outside, much to the Hyuga's obvious uneasiness. Let's teach you a few lessons about confidence and girls' superiority over boys. Observing the two as they left, Naruto caught Perry and noticed a friendly face drinking at the bar's counter. She was clad in a civilian black dress, and away from the rest of the guests. Naruto sat at her side and ordered a coffee. You're not enjoying Queen Enko's coronation, I presume? Not so much. Yugao Yuzuki smiled sadly. I've never been comfortable in parties, to be blunt. They aren't my thing. Yeah, I'm happy Enko is joining the Corps, but I still think of my boyfriend, was left unsaid. Sorry. For what? If I hadn't been captured, he... Her face did not change at all, which disturbed Naruto. It's my fault, indirectly. It's Orochimaru's fault, she countered stoically. Look, Atlas, nobody could have foreseen it. Hate died in the line of duty, which is all too common in the shinobi world. We were both prepared for it when we started dating. In fact, I expected to be the one to die first. You take the most dangerous missions. I swore on his grave I would avenge him, and I intend to fulfill this promise. Agonizing over the past blinds you to the present. A wise bit of advice not everyone has the strength to follow. I'm afraid. Kakashi's voice reached their ears, making the duo turn around. He sat at their side, his lone eye trapped into a frown. Yugao, I have bad news. We just received a report from one of our teams posted on the frontier. There has been a massacre at a town in Wind. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Could it be a consequence of the summit debacle? What happened? Yuzuki asked, clenching her fists. I only have vague info. Kakashi crossed his arms. This morning, a lone individual entered the town and started throwing bombs at houses. An inferno quickly spread and the ninja present attempted to arrest him. Unfortunately, they were inexperienced genin and chunin, and the attacker killed every single last one of them. Then he butchered all the civilians he came across before fleeing to who knows where. Casualties are estimated between the hundreds and the thousand, thanks to the fires. Our men couldn't give a precise number. What did he look like? Naruto cut in. It might be one of Orochimaru's men. The blonde half expected the jounin to ignore him, doubly so since he had humiliated his students a few weeks ago, but surprisingly the man simply nodded. It was the first thought that crossed my mind as well, and the ninja's description. He had claws instead of fingers, and he was seen snapping a sword in half with his teeth. He evidently suffered from heavy body modifications, a specialty of the snake. But that's not the worst part. Hyuga raised an eyebrow and blanched. He was wearing one of our headbands, right? Kakashi nodded grimly. The implications horrified Naruto, and the Chunin added salt on the wound. He also kept shouting it was payback for their attempted murder of the fire daimyo, and that it was Suna would pay among other threats. You don't need many brain cells to guess Wind will be pissed at the leaf when this massacre becomes common knowledge. It's definitively Orochimaru, Yuzuki whispered. After the failed summit, our relationships with the Wind are at their lowest. This will exacerbate the tensions. Even if Summon Wind will guess it's a false flag operation, Naruto guessed, the populace at large will be out for our blood. The chances of a war starting just increased. Are the Chunin exams going to be annulled, senpai? Yuzuki asked, the honorific surprising her blonde friend. I heard rumors about it. No. Kakashi shook his head. The Hokage wants to defuse the situation with the Kazekage, and the exams present a perfect opportunity. The 5th Mizukage is also scheduled to attend to it, in order to take back Zabuza's corpse from us. Kiri elected a 5th Mizukage? Naruto put the information in a compartment of his mind for a later use. Who is it? The Hatake shrugged his shoulders. No idea. The region isn't completely stabilized yet, and news have sometimes been contradictory. But whoever it is, the new Mizukage wishes to confirm Zabuza's death, and probably use the exam as a way to rebuild old alliances. It would also remind the world water is still a force to be reckoned with. Hyuga crossed her arms. It seems everyone is on the move lately. I don't like it, neither do I. Kakashi shrugged. Call me a pessimist, but I fear a new war is on the horizon. The signs don't lie. He blinked, upon glancing at where Anko was. For the love of, she's actually putting a crown on, and he left them in a blink, doing his best not to look at Anko's newest drunken joke. Naruto glanced at Hyuga while drinking his coffee. Senpai, eh? He was my captain in the ANBU, she admitted. Kakashi, you have to look underneath the underneath with him. You scratch past the foolish persona and you discover a war veteran. Dig some more and you find a troubled individual, I've noticed. As it became increasingly clear Hyuga was getting bored, Naruto coughed. If you don't like Anko's party, I can escort you to your home, or we can go out doing. I don't know, talk, train, do origami, anything, the ANBU chuckled. Weren't you supposed to avoid human contact as best as possible? The old man informed you. It wasn't a question, but a fact. Do you have an idea who could have spied on me? The list is too long to give. Hyuga sighed. It's a good thing Hinata Hyuga is already kept under scrutiny by the ANBU, for your interactions with her could have turned her into a potential target. It wasn't surprising, considering Kumo tried to kidnap her when she was very young. The old man said I could still frequent my team, he said. We're still a team, right? The ANBU stayed silent a few seconds, before nodding decisively. Yes, we are, Hokage-sama, Inoichi coughed. I have bad news and worse news. It can't be worse than what happened this morning, Sarutobi shrugged sadly, rereading again the report one of his agents in Wind sent as fast as he could. Who could have ordered this massacre? The Sandaime pondered. Anoki? Eh? They would benefit from a war between Suna and Konoha, true, but no. My guts tell me my former student has a hand in this shameful atrocity. Go on. The captive Tayuya is no longer able to endure further questioning, the interrogator admitted. I attempted to enter her mind and extract information as soon as the medics reanimated her, but Orochimaru apparently added a failsafe seal in her brain. The second I activated my jutsu, it destroyed her mind and memories. The hope of salvaging any information for this empty husk is non-existent. Sarutobi clenched his jaw. Her survival after the burns she suffered from Naruto had been nothing short of a gift from heavens, and now it had been all for naught. At least we can vivisect her body and examine her cursed seal, he noted. You said worse news? Ibiki interrogated some of Orochimaru's staff we jailed during the attack, and roughed them up a bit. The Hokage did not need a memo to understand the implications. They testified they received information from moles in Konoha. We managed to identify 3 of them. Who? Sarutobi raised an eyebrow. If the counterintelligence missed them, Hokage-sama. Inoichi cringed. The moles are from the counterintelligence department. We believe at least some of its heads are compromised. The Hokage stayed silent briefly, until he lit his pipe, inhaled sharply, and locked eyes with the clan head. I had my suspicions for a time, he admitted, his fears confirmed. Konoha was totally clueless about the recent troubles in Wave, and Kakashi and the last Uchiha were sent in a C-rank mission to it, which turned out to be A rank. I have been wondering if the error wasn't an attempt at subtly crippling our strength. So what do we do? Inoichi crossed his arms. The moles we identified are probably only the tip of the iceberg. Sarutobi brought the pipe to his lips and let the smoke fill his lungs. I'm decreeing a purge. The Yamanaka actually blinked. Hokage-sama, the ANBU, he cut in, will arrest all the members of counterintelligence. Your division shall then interrogate them and identify any individual with possible ties to the enemy. Konoha does not know it yet, but I am afraid a war is near, and we cannot afford for our counterintelligence to be non-functional when the time to defend our country comes. I will be ready, Inoichi stated. Yes. Yes, we will. So, everything is going as you planned, Orochimaru Dano, the Yondaime Kazekage replied with joy upon welcoming the Akatsuki member around a table. I have convinced the civilian representatives. With the little stunt your agent performed on the border, the populace is convinced Konoha is preparing to attack. The threat of civil war will be postponed until the more immediate threat is dealt with. Nothing reforms a divided population better than the threat of invaders, the Sannin mused. If you assume, temporarily of course, the occupation of the daimyo post, some will protest, but the sanest members of the nobility along those answering to my organization will support you for the sake of presenting a facade of unity before the foreign nations. This should give you a few months to prevent a succession crisis. With the time gained, I will be able to put a new loyal and competent daimyo in that cursed traitor's place. The Kazekage nodded to himself. Since Konoha will guess you are linked to both the massacre and the bomb incident, I will simply have to put the blame on you, slowly defuse the diplomatic crisis, and turn Suna peaceful and stronger than ever before. The daimyo's funds will turn back to the village, and your organization shall be handsomely rewarded for your help, without Konoha's knowledge of course. Orochimaru. Actually, that's not going to happen, the Kazekage frowned. I gave you the S. A man chooses. A slave obeys. The Yondaime's mind ceased to function and he blacked out. His eyes wandered aimlessly devoid of life and will. Orochimaru smiled at this reaction. The trigger sentence had worked perfectly. Now, it was time to give some subconscious instructions and place this pawn on the chessboard. The concession you gave us was most appreciated, Kazekage Dano, the Sannin explained kindly. But I am afraid you misunderstood your role. You will not keep Suna peaceful. In fact, while you pretend to try to solve the crisis and accept Sarutobi's explanations, you shall secretly gather your forces to strike during the Chunin exams, leaving your nation unprotected. We must start the Fourth Shinobi War. Kumo and IWA are weak, while your country is strong. With Akatsuki's help, victory is assured. You must not consider the possibility of failure, and silence everyone speaking against our project. Is this fine for you? The Yondaime nodded, unable to control his actions. Then, Sasori sends you his regards. At the trigger's activation, the country leader's eyes snapped open and drifted aimlessly. Orochimaru faked a worried expression. Kazekage Dano, do you feel all right? You seem sick. Yes, I was simply pondering an alternative. The man regained his arrogant confidence. Why not fake peaceful negotiations, and instead prepare to strike Konoha? A wonderful idea worthy of your tactical genius, the Sannin agreed happily, lying through his teeth. Marvelous. Against our combined forces, Konoha will surely fall. With Gaara, we will destroy the country without suffering any losses, allowing Suna to rule the south unopposed. The Kazekage snorted scornfully. And then, we shall start the Fourth Ninja War. Kumo and IWA have been too much weakened by the last conflict to resist, and Wind will impose its hegemony over the continent. Nothing would make me happier. Afterward, the two leaders started elaborating battle plans, and as expected, the brainwashed Kazekage was walking straight into Akatsuki's trap. If the invasion succeeds, good. Konoha will be destroyed, Wind will be weakened, and either IWA or Kumo will try taking advantage of the situation by invading the Land of Fire, while Suna shall fall into chaos, Orochimaru mused inwardly. If it fails, no doubt the results shall be the same. Konoha will not survive without losses and their enemies might get ideas anyway. In either case, the Fourth Shinobi War will start with Akatsuki profiting from the event, in more ways than this puppet can imagine. After leaving Sunagakure, Orochimaru was welcomed by his partner in the desert away from notice. Tell me, my dear Scorpion, the Sannin grinned, how long has our dear Yondaime been under your control? Ever since he became the apprentice of the Sandaime Kazekage. The puppeteer snorted. He was useful to trap his teacher, and since he had a high probability of being chosen as the man's successor, I had him sabotage investigations and blame IWA, sparking the Third Ninja War. Oh, so you have been sowing chaos from behind the scenes for nearly 2 decades? Orochimaru made a mock reverence. I am impressed. And now you are up for a repeat performance. I never do the same trick twice, Sasori replied. This war will be my greatest performance, the total annihilation of the shinobi world as we know it. A worthy goal, his partner nodded. But tell me, Sasori, why are you a part of this? My motives are a mystery for no one, but you, what could you gain from Pain and his gang? Humans to turn into puppets? Revenge? Or perhaps is it amusement? The mad artist snorted. Your curiosity will kill you one of these days. On the contrary, curiosity is the essence of survival, my dear friend of wood. The snake Sannin crossed his arms. Speaking of survival, how is your investigation going? If you need help to subdue Itachi, I would be glad to lend you a hand. Oh, I am certain you would love to take over his body as your own, Sasori snorted. Unfortunately, I have the feeling Itachi is not the only loose cannon we will have to deal with. Once he returned to his office, Danzo was welcomed by an annoying sight. Want an apple? The man told him, presenting a red fruit with his right hand. You must hungry after all your work. Give in. Danzo's expression did not change, although he inwardly desired nothing more than kick that criminal out of his lair and have him hanged. Considering he was probably stronger than the old man and needed to ensure Konoha's safety, the war hawk simply glared at his guest. Don't we look like bad guys, the two of us? The madman chuckled with a fake, childish laugh. A dark office, alone, masked, it screams evil conspiracy. I do not care for your mockery, Madara, Danzo snapped, closing the door behind him. What do you want? The masked man snorted, his Sharingan swirling in his one exposed eye socket. Perhaps I am here to congratulate you for laying such a good trap for Orochimaru. Of course I helped somewhat, so, where is my reward? Your information was welcomed. Danzo had no idea what kind of sick game the madman was playing, but no doubt it involved destroying Konoha at a point. Why the Uchiha was feeding Root's leader with information was beyond the man's understanding. Then again, living for a century with the Uchiha's curse, he may not be sane anymore. However, I do not remember promising you anything for your cooperation. Danzo is a bad boy, and a liar. The masked man lounged on the desk mockingly. You owe me Edo Tensei, the war hawk snorted. They did have a bargain involving the technique's secrets, one Danzo had no intention of honoring. Pain is still alive. As per our alliance, you shall not receive Edo Tensei as long as he breathes. Still afraid of Nagato's revenge? Madara narrowed his Sharingan. Perhaps you are afraid he will track you down for helping kill his friend? I wonder how Sarutobi would react to this knowledge, or what Pain would do if I convinced him to pay you a visit. The threat was blatant, and Danzo did his best to ignore it. The war hawk had gladly allowed Madara to help in the destruction of the Uchiha clan, and then sent Itachi to spy on him with the orders to kill him at first opportunity. It was his standard procedure, getting rid of allies before they could turn into threats, especially considering in spite of Madara's vocal protests of the contrary, Danzo was certain he had a hand in unleashing the Kyuubi on the leaf. But the masked Uchiha had seen the betrayal coming and warned if Danzo ever tried to move against him, information about his cover-up of Orochimaru's experiments, his secret interference in AIM, Root's unauthorized operations, and dealings with Madara himself would reach Sarutobi's ears, which would probably result in Danzo's hanging and the disbandment of his organization's shadiest branches. And while Danzo did not mind dying to keep Konoha peaceful, an ideal he lost his eye and arm for, he and Root were still needed to keep the leaf safe, especially in such troubled times. A conflict with Sarutobi would weaken the country, and had to be avoided at all costs. Fortunately Madara, although one of the main members of Akatsuki, apparently did not hold Pain in high regard, and did not bother hiding some important facts from Itachi, who he had to suspect of treason. In fact, the masked criminal sometimes informed the Root leader of some of Akatsuki's newest plans, illogical actions that were impossible for Danzo to understand. Either he loves pointless chaos like Orochimaru, Danzo guessed, or he is playing a game I have yet to grasp. No dead Pain, no Edo Tensei. You are a harsh friend, Danzo. Madara teleported behind the war hawk purely for amusement. You gotta give me a bone, or you will find me purring info next time Pain prepares to screw you over. Or perhaps I should inform little Sasuke of our arrangement. I paid you that service, with the Sharingan of the massacre's victims. Not all of them, of course, but a sizable quantity. Danzo had been wise enough to keep a third of them and have his scientists try to reverse engineer the bloodline. Isn't it enough? Of course not. Madara vanished with a breeze and reappeared, his back turned on Danzo. The opportunity to strike was golden, but the Shimura knew better than try. Obviously it was a trap. I want Sasuke. I promised Itachi I would not lay a hand on him, Danzo replied, although once again, he had no intention of holding this bargain. Should Itachi prove to be unreliable, his brother's life would be on the balance to ensure he did not switch sides. Oh? So the king of liars is going to fulfill a dying man's wish? How hypocritical. The criminal mused. Itachi has tuberculosis, and not long to live. You better find a more believable excuse, Danzo snorted. Whether or not Itachi was indeed dying did not change a thing. Give me Orochimaru, and I will consider your proposal. Afraid he'll reveal your secrets to foreign nations? Madara glared at his foe potently. You think the shadows protect you, fool, but they only make it easier for your enemies to fight you. One day, you shall be forced to step into the light, and none of your knowledge will protect you from the wrath of your own pawns. Is it a threat? It is a prophecy. The Uchiha warped space around his eye, vanishing into a hole. A snake for an Uchiha? A trade I shall consider. The war hawk glanced at his desk. The red apple had been placed on it. No doubt it was poisoned. Explain to me, Hyuga began, wearing civilian clothing. Why do you intend to leave Konoha for hours, days after a failed kidnapping attempt? I need herbs for a medical procedure, and they aren't available on the market, he answered with tact. Since Orochimaru now knows the old man can track me down any time, I doubt he will try anything so close to the leaf. Besides, I trust you to ensure my safety. The woman rolled her eyes, much to Naruto's amusement. He had been quite happy when the Hokage had assigned her as a constant watcher. Anko was going to be unavailable for days, being introduced to her division in the ANBU. Hyuga was a good buddy to hang out with, and a friend's presence would be good for her. After leaving Anko's celebration, Naruto had discovered Hyuga's home, a small apartment in Konoha's outskirts. It was smaller than the blonde's own, but the genin suspected the woman also had quarters in whatever building hiding the ANBU's HQ. That, and apparently, the neighborhood apartment belonged to Kakashi Hatake. He figured the team would stick together. A coffee later, they had parted ways and Naruto had entered his laboratory, intending to do something he had in mind for some time. Examine the samsara. The ninja wasn't dumb enough to test the product without learning what it contained, and although his equipment wasn't as advanced as Konoha's hospital, it was enough to do some guesswork on a few of the solution's components. Mysterious enzymes, chemical muscle enhancers, and human cells. Besides the obvious no-no of having an unknown individual's DNA in his body, Naruto was curious about its source. The herbs should help him isolate these cells from the rest of the solution, and perhaps allow the identification of the donor. The sound of shouting at the town's gates snapped the blonde out of his thoughts. I told you, a guard protested to a giant in red armor and a green-haired teen. I have no idea who you're talking about. The giant lowered his head and muttered something to his partner's ears. Han says it's the one town he could have stopped by, she said. He doesn't speak common language? The giant whispered once again to the girl's ear. He does, she explained, but not to you. Would someone explain me what's going on? Hyuga asked, as the guard's jaw dropped in shock. They have been pestering me for hours. The Konohanin protested. It's as if they feed on my annoyance. The Han requires no misery to survive, the giant spoke out loud with a deep, regal voice. The Han feeds on the fear he inspires. And sometimes the blood of his enemies. You're lying, the girl snorted. I saw you eat noodles when you thought I wasn't looking. You dreamed, but the Han does not blame you. Being around the Han for too long can cause awesomeness-induced hallucinations or a pathological desire to worship the ground the Han walks on. Sometimes both. Alright, why is everyone I meet either a psycho or a weirdo? Look, the Han, since being around you is harmful, Naruto started off slowly. Why don't you tell us what do you want so we can resolve this issue nice and quick? Naruto-kun, Hyuga coughed. I don't think he's sane. The Han is pleased to meet someone with a brain, the giant cut in. The Han is looking for a red-haired drunkard who probably assaulted the nearest bar with lava and smoke, perhaps without pants. He's looking for a friend, the girl translated. I'm Fu, and he's called Han. Please ignore his antics. Preferably by not talking to him. Naruto pitied her for a second. Being around that guy must be a constant challenge for one's nerves. I'm Naruto, and the dark beauty here is Hyuga. The woman smiled briefly at the compliment. From what I've got, you're looking for a drunkard. Rashi, An old man apparently with an attraction for all things alcoholic. Also likes to smoke with a pipe. Fu coughed. Han says he can fly at 5 million miles an hour and shoot a laser beam called Kamehameha from his hands. But I think he's just messing with me. It's confirmed. The guy is completely out of his gourd. And what make you think he could have stopped at Konoha? Naruto asked. Han thinks he stopped for a drink, resulting in him missing his meeting with his friend. Fu shrugged. Han is worried. The Han thinks Rashi might have stopped to meet the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, the giant said, locking eyes with Naruto. Did he approach you? The temperature dropped heavily, as both Hyuga and Naruto glanced at Han in a mixture of worry and horror. How the hell does he? Wait, you're the QB's container? Fu's jaw dropped. Really? Fear not, we wish you no harm, Han explained, apparently realizing Naruto's expression wasn't the nicest of all. The Han keeps a dolphin tamed in his belly, and Fu is a green beetle's container. Hyuga stayed still a few seconds. All right, she said. I think the Sandaime will be pretty happy to discuss your problems. No pressure though, Naruto promised. He's nice. Well, most of the time. Chapter 6. Pulling the strings. Sarutobi was growing too old for this. So, Fu-san, Han-san, the Han, Hokage-sama. With the Han-san, the Hokage corrected himself, refraining the urge to slam his head against his desk. I am sorry to say Rashi was not sighted anywhere near Konoha. This is a shame, but I cannot help you. The Han is disappointed, the giant man whispered with a deep voice. But the Han is content to have met the Nine-Tails vessel. He is a good boy. I'm right here, Naruto complained, sulking in a corner. And how did you know about me? That Kazekage gave your photo to the Jounin of the village, the Han snorted. They had orders to kill you on sight if possible should they run across you, as enemy Jinchuriki are by default considered S-rank threat to national security. While the blonde blanched, Sarutobi was barely surprised. After all, he himself had sent spies to monitor foreign demon vessels. His spies in IWA, however, failed to mention the Gobi's peculiar personality. Fu's jaw dropped. You're a Jounin? No. The Han never made it past Chunin, but the Kazekage thought the Han, as awesomely powerful and marvelously spectacular as he was, would better be ready to fight Konoha's own demon weapon. The giant shrugged. Sucker. Sarutobi wasn't privy in the circumstances that had led to the Gobi's desertion, and to be honest, he doubted the demon vessel would ever enlighten the old man. However, I must ask you something. Are you certain these letters were from Rashi? The writing was his own, Han shrugged. Why is the Hokage doubtful? Is there something the Han should know? The old man glanced at the people present in his office. Naruto, Fu, Han, and Hyuga. The first three were directly concerned, and the last one could be trusted. The Hokage briefly hesitated before deciding perhaps it was time to share some information. What I am about to reveal you is extremely sensitive. The four ninja tensed slightly, ready to listen. Sarutobi inhaled from his pipe sharply, releasing its smoke into a small cloud. The information will not be made public, but multiple attempts to abduct Jinchuriki have happened in the past few months. We suspect at least one, Kurabi from Cloud, has been captured and his bijou forcefully extracted. The Raikage's attempts at recovering his brother had not been especially subtle, although he had no idea who or what was the source of the kidnapping. The Sanbai and the Rokubi might have been captured as well, but the information as of this moment unconfirmed. And then in the last weeks, Naruto, here present, has been the victim of such an attempt. Orochimaru? Naruto frowned. He's trying to collect the bijou? The organization he belongs to, Sarutobi corrected, drawing everyone's attention. While Han and Fu were foreigners, the infamous reputation of the Hokage's former student was international in scope. Has any of you heard of Akatsuki? Han, surprisingly nodded. They're a band of S-rank missing Nins secretly working as mercenaries for the Kazekage, he explained. He offered them lands in exchange for their service, if the Han remembers. It was one of the Sandaime's dirty little secrets the Han uncovered. Sarutobi filed the little tidbit of information in a corner of his mind for a later use. He had briefly considered informing the rest of the Kage of the threat presented by Akatsuki, but apparently, at least a few of them were working with pain. Which was bad news for the future. This is a cover for much more nefarious purposes. The Akatsuki is an international crime syndicate working to topple the current powers of the ninja world, and they have a particular interest in the tailed beasts. Their members include, among others, my renegade student Orochimaru, Deidara of the Rock, and Kakuzu of the Waterfall. Kakuzu? The Kakuzu? Fu gasped, as if the man was some kind of boogeyman. Which wasn't surprising, since the man had a nasty hobby of hunting Chunin and looting them afterward. The Heart Reaper? The Han is not surprised the psycho bomber decided to work for an anti-government faction, the giant shrugged. He always liked his explosions loud and flashy. Currently, our information on Akatsuki is truly limited, Sarutobi scoffed, and as such no coordinate international response is in the works. The Jinchuriki are completely unprotected for the time being. I would suggest you to travel together or stay in cities instead of wandering alone in the wilderness. Rashi might be threatened. Han crossed his arms. The Han must inform him. Hey, if you want to stay in the village, my door is open, Naruto pointed out cheerfully. It would be an honor for me to welcome you under my roof for a few days. Han and Fu locked eyes briefly, before the girl bowed respectfully. Thank you very much. We won't be too bothersome, I promise. Well, in my case anyway. The Han is going to honor you with his presence, the giant told him, before grabbing both teens by the collar and dragging them outside. But first, the Han wants to go on a walk. Sarutobi grinned briefly at Naruto's discomfort, before glancing at Kat. Please stay here for a minute, he told her. Hokage-sama? Did Han say anything else of note on Naruto? As the Anbu shook her head, Sarutobi shrugged and dismissed her. Keep an eye on them. They may be unaffiliated with our enemies, but it does not mean they are allies. As the woman vanished with a shunshin, the Hokage frowned. If Inoki knew about Naruto's demon, did he know about his family's legacy as well? This was going to be a long day. That's Ichiraku's, Naruto explained, continuing the visit. The best ramen stand of the town. You wanna eat? Go there. He stopped briefly, upon realizing Han wasn't listening. Han? The Han. The giant was writing a letter, which he rolled into a scroll. Here we go. That's a message for Rashi? Fast? A warning about Akatsuki and a demand he hurries meet the Han in Konoha, the ninja replied, before beginning a jutsu, cutting his finger to get some blood. The Han's beautiful summoning. Apparently, his inflated opinion of himself applied to his techniques as well. As he slammed his hands to the ground, Naruto narrowed his eyes, curious. As the smoke vanished, he prepared to see what kind of creature the Han could summon. It turned out to be a dove, with a strange engine on its back. As both Fu and Naruto face-palmed, the giant gave it the message. Bring this to Rashi and then his answer, he said, as the bird caught the scroll with its claws. Suddenly, the engine on the bird's back activated, and in a deafening explosion sound, it sent the dove high in the skies, where he vanished before the other Jinchuriki could blink. You put a reactor on a dove? Naruto's jaw dropped, amazed by the insane action. The Han prefers the term of flying feathered dinosaur, the red man shrugged. To answer your previous questioning, no, the Han does no feed on ramen, but on fear. Liar, Fu crossed her arms. Anyway, I admit I'm not such a fan of ramen, or eating, in fact. Is there a training ground nearby? Or organized tournaments? Tournaments? There is the Chunin exams that is scheduled to start tomorrow, but I doubt you can enter it. Many foreign genin teams had already arrived with their instructors, forcing the Inuzuka police force and the ANBU to patrol the streets repeatedly. Even the Ichiraku's was crowded. You don't do tournaments in Konoha? Fu raised her eyebrows. In Taki, genins, chunins, and jounins do scheduled tournaments every 3 days to keep their skills sharp. Konoha prefers building its teams, cooperation exercises, and demissions for this, Naruto told her. The Leaf thinks organized competition leads to resentment and infighting. As she lowered her head in disappointment, he decided to cheer her up. But we can beat up each other, if you want. There's a place called the Forest of Death dedicated to that. I'm afraid this is impossible, Hyuga told them, as she manifested next to them with a shunshin. The forest will be the place where the second part of the exams is going to take place. The ANBU closed the place until the end of the exams. She crossed her arms. However, the third training ground is unoccupied, as far as I know. Fu frowned slightly at the arrival of the newcomer. You're an ANBU, right? She guessed, although Hyuga was wearing formal clothing and hadn't her mask over her face. Are you his handler? As both Naruto and Hyuga frowned, Han decided to enlighten them. It is a custom for most Jinchuriki to have an ANBU watching them all the time, to prevent them from releasing their bijou and going on a rampage, he explained. The Han had many, but for some obscure reasons they always ran away from the Han. Strange. Naruto had a fairly good idea why, but kept his mouth shut. Nah, Hyuga is a friend, and a bodyguard. I almost got kidnapped some time ago by Orochimaru and Akatsuki, so the Hokage decided to increase my security. Nice stuff. What happened to your handler? Hyuga asked Fu with a frown. He tried to kill me during my sleep, Fu admitted. Then Nanabai took over and ripped him in half. Banishing the disturbing image from his mind, Naruto shrugged. He had it coming, he said, before deciding to switch subject. Well, why not head to this training ground? Anko's first mission as ANBU was boring and uninteresting. Even her newest awesome snake mask did not improve her mood. She and her new team had been tasked to investigate on the genins arriving for the Chunin exams. In itself, the mission was important. More than one hidden village had tried to disguise Jounin or ANBU among the candidates in the past, to infiltrate their enemies, and with the current international troubles, the Sandaime expected a recrudescence of such actions, but it was so goddamn annoying it hurt. Anko lived for excitement, and missions like this were dull. Observe team, check their behavior, see if they were suspect. So far, none had been extraordinary, and the snake woman longed to return to Konoha and meet her student again. The routine was killing her. Anko was actually surprised by the thought. A few months ago, she wouldn't have thought twice about anyone else but her few friends, who could be counted on one hand, and now she cared about Naruto enough to look forward to seeing him again. Beyond their similar personalities, she guessed they had managed to form a sort of bond over the last few weeks. Anko banished the thoughts. She had to focus. Her newest target, a team from Kusa, was within sight, mangled and laying on the ground, drowning in their own blood. The ANBU stopped, carefully glanced around her, just in case it was a trap, and upon seeing nothing was wrong, she stepped in to check the bodies. The damage done was, their skin had been ripped off their muscles, harvested for a sinister purpose, the face-stealing jutsu. Anko blanched behind her mask. There was only one person sick enough to use this shit, and it appears the rumors were true. A cold, emotionless voice reached her ears, nearly causing an heart attack. You are fond of flirting with death. Upon arriving to the training ground, the group learned that, no, it wasn't unoccupied. Repeat after me, never apologize when you can criticize. Tenten told Hinata, and never apologize when you can criticize. You apologize, I penalize. Why you apologize, I penalize. You're getting better, the weapon master nodded confidently. She pointed an index at a perfect copy of Hayashi Hyuga. Now I want you to hit this bunshin with everything you have. Kick him between the legs. But it's my. He treats you like a pushover, so give him the once-over. Tenten shouted the slogan, and Hinata timidly approached, before kicking the bunshin as hard as she could, looking like she was enjoying herself. That's the spirit. Tenten nodded, creating a new clone to replace the old one. Now you're going to call him out on everything he ever did to you. It was at this moment she noticed the newcomers. Oh, hey Naruto. Who are these guys? Your new team? It's complicated, but they're friends, the blonde grinned, as Hinata shyly waved at him. I see you're taking her training seriously. Nice. Oh, and I'm working on your debt, Tenten chuckled maliciously. Come to see me after the second part of the exam. My team and Hinata's are going to obliterate the competition. I see. Naruto crossed his fingers behind his back, hoping she wouldn't turn him into a guinea pig or something worse. Do you intend to keep the training ground? We were hoping to spar between each other. Nah, we're going to relocate. Tenten grabbed Hinata by the collar and dragged her away. Don't forget to introduce your new friends to me next time. I like her, Fu whispered. She's your girlfriend? No, but I consider her one of my best friends. The Nanabai's vessel seemed slightly disappointed he didn't flush or something. You green-haired sadist. Anyway, you want to fight or not? Perhaps we should do the traditional introduction first, since you're going to stay there for a few days, Hyuga suggested. Likes, dislike, hobbies, goals in life. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, the blonde gave the example. I like ramen, the orange color, chemistry, weapons, and my pals. I dislike pricks, laziness, and when Anko decides to train me. My hobbies are training, pulling pranks, inventing stuff that never works, botany, blowing up walls, and going on walks with my platypus. My new goal in life is to one day kick the Hokage's ass, which I'm working on. Who's this Anko? The Han asked. Someone nice? You've got a platypus as pet? Fu raised her eyebrows. You're alright. Just alright. I'm totally not going to answer any of these questions. My name is Hyuga Yuzuki, the woman cut in, ignoring the blonde. I like sword fighting, cats, and reading. I dislike smoke and parties. My hobbies are viewing the moon, sharpening my skills, and collecting rare blades. My goal in life is currently to kill a certain person. Naruto didn't need a memo to guess who it was. Han snorted. The Han is the Han. Not Han the Han. The Han likes drawings, paintings, and racing against fast people. The Han dislikes IWA and waiting. His hobbies are painting, catching, and trying to solve the greatest questions in life. His goal in life is to answer these questions, which is? Naruto fearfully asked. Is the world born to welcome the Han, or is the Han born to enlighten the world? The giant crossed his arms. Why is the Han wonderful and marvelous when others are not? Why is the Han so awesome? Could it be possible the world exists for the Han only? 3 people loudly palmed their face in unison. Anyway, Fu shrugged. I'm Fu. I like fighting things, especially when they fight back, and flying when the nanabai lets me do it. I dislike what most girls like, aka fashion, shopping. My hobbies are collecting headbands of defeated foes, and traveling. My goal in life is to become the strongest kunoichi ever by wasting everyone else. She slammed her fist against her palm. So let's go. Nice apartment, Fu commented, upon sitting around the table. You own the entire building? I'm hoping to turn it into a casino next, he deadpanned, putting ointment over his bruises. I've got beds ready in the other rooms. In case you want to take a rest. He handed her the herbal ointment. You should use it. It's extremely effective, and I made it myself. Fu groaned and accepted it. She was equally bruised, although most of the blows had come from Han instead of Naruto. The blonde shuddered. He had thought the guy's ego was inflated, but as it turned, he could back his boasting up. Han was basically Guy by another name. No distance attacks, only punches and kicks, strong enough to shatter bones and dished out at the speed of lightning. Han could use steam-based jutsu to propel himself, create a mist to hide his moves, and power up his blows. Naruto and Fu had fought him together every time and had been promptly wasted during most encounters. Han had shrugged off their hits as if they were nothing, and the blonde had considered using explosive tags, although it was merely a spar. The record was currently 3-1 in Han's favor, Naruto having managed to sedate him during a fight, while Fu had blinded him with her special powder. Together, they had managed to subdue the man, while Hyuga had cheered them on from the sidelines. But both teens knew in a serious fight, Han could have probably crushed their skulls without much effort. Fu herself was no pushover either. Naruto was fairly certain she could give some jounin a run for their money, although her fighting style didn't focus on pure power. Instead, she relied on blinding powder to dazzle her opponents, before using it as a combustible agent next. She had mastered at least a few fire and wind techniques, and her agility allowed her to dodge most attacks. Like Tenten, she was heavily oriented toward fighting from distance. Having experience with that kind of opponent, Naruto had managed to tie, the record being of 2 wins for each of them. Fu was fairly dangerous, yes, but she had little to no experience fighting against a trap-oriented ninja who could trick her and launch surprise attacks. Hyuga had fought each of the 3 Jinchurikis separately, and won against Fu and Naruto, while she tied against Han. Using a dull training sword to avoid inflicting serious harm, she was a truly dangerous opponent, who relied mostly on speed and lighting fast strikes to stun her enemies, and using occasional wind techniques to push away the dust and steam the Jinchuriki could produce. If she had been allowed to use her sharpened tanto, there would have been a lot of blood. Why didn't you use jutsu? Fu's question snapped Naruto out of his thoughts. You never once used illusions nor ninjutsu. Why, it's... The Kyuubi's vessel interlaced his fingers. The 9-tailed fox kinda destroyed my chakra network when I was young. It wanted to screw with me as petty revenge for its imprisonment, and make me dependent on it. It granted me advanced regeneration, true, but he crippled my ninja skills. Both Han and Fu glanced sadly at him. Your Bijou is a jerk, the giant pointed out, the understatement of the century. Naruto shrugged. And yours? The nanabai is pretty passive. Fu scratched the back of her head. It is a destructive creature, make no mistake, but it doesn't bother to attack people unless directly threatened. It reacts violently to threats, but most of the time, it just wants to fly, eat, and sleep, or hold civil conversations when bored. The golden powder I used was an ability it passed to me so I could properly defend both of us against assassinations. The Gobi is the Han's sidekick, the former IWA Nin proudly boasted. It gives the Han its steam, the Han teaches it how to be cool with the cosmos. I see. In truth, Naruto had no intention of learning what the giant meant by that. It was probably too weird for his sanity to handle and remain intact. The Han has to ask you something, the giant said. We're leaving as soon as the Han gets an answer from Rashi. Would you like to travel with us? Naruto's jaw dropped at the suggestion. You mean going missing, Nin? It would be awesome if you could travel with us, Fu nodded cheerfully. Plus, it wasn't as if it was risky. Your fox may be an ass, but the two of us could shield you from pursuers. With Rashi, we could probably fend off this Akatsuki anytime. Naruto wasn't as confident, and the Han probably noticed it, for he locked eyes with the teen. The Han noticed the many glares you received from passerby. He spoke with his usual guttural tone. The Han doubts you would be missed, or miss this place. Wouldn't it be better if you were to join people who can accept you for what you are? It's tempting, but I must refuse. The boy scratched the back of his head and grinned. It's true I'm not liked here, but I have real friends who do not mind the Kyuubi. Not many, yes, but I want to keep my bonds with them. That, and Orochimaru, is not to be underestimated. It would be safer for me to stay in the leaf to hone my skills. Both Jinchuriki looked somewhat disappointed, and an opening door interrupted the conversation. Naruto, I've a message from the Hokage, Hyuga Uzuki said. You're going to be among the proctors for the Chunin exams tomorrow. The news made him jump on place. But I'm only a genin. Sarutobi-sama believes your evaluation skills will partly affect your promotion to Chunin, Hyuga scoffed. That, and he is worried. The teams present come from Konoha, Suna, Kiri, and a few minor villages, and he wants you to observe them. With the current political climate, and both the Kazekage and Mizuki arriving in town after the second part, he does not desire any incidents. All right. The reasoning made sense. Some teams from Suna might react badly, especially the news of the massacre had been made public. Most of the population wanted an explanation, and a large part of it, blood. I've prepared your bed, by the way. Since you're going to guard me for a long time. Thanks. Could the Han be a proctor? The giant attracted everyone's attention. The Han thinks it would be nice, and the Han and Fu can be good at the job. The question amazed everyone present, especially Hyuga. I will ask the Hokage, she said. Naruto frowned slightly. What did the giant have in mind? You're a proctor, Naruto? How? Because I'm better than you and kicked your ass, Naruto told Sakura, as the different teams each sat behind a desk for the written exam. He relished in the kunoichi's infuriated reaction, which made his day. I hope you appreciate the irony. You had better written results than myself, except now it's me who's going to test you. How can we be sure you won't favor anyone? Someone from Kiri asked. Oh, don't be naive, Naruto pointed a finger at the different watchers. This one from your village is the uncle of a participant. The Suna proctor is the instructor of one team present here. And let's not talk about the rest of them. Everyone is going to be guilty of favoritism. But as long as you behave and do not cheat, none of us will have the legal evidences to act upon it. He grinned sadistically. Don't worry. I'm going to keep your back in sight. The genin closed his mouth and did his best to go unnoticed. No one from Taki. Fu whispered to his ear. She had traded her former slashed headband for a Konoha forehead protector. They aren't participating? Nah. Kumo and IWA organized their own exam and Taki decided to participate in that one instead. As Ibiki Marino finished explaining the rules and distributing the tests, both teens focused. As expected, everyone cheated, some better than others. Naruto repressed a grin upon seeing his former classmates blatantly violate the rules. Hinata and Niji used their Byakugan, Sasuke the Sharingan. Ino took over Sakura's body to see her answers, as the latter was smart enough to figure the answers on her own. Sai used ink-based ninjutsu to copy the answers of the Chunin infiltrating the classroom. 1010, that resourceful smartass, had secretly placed a mirror system on the ceiling to steal answers both for herself and the helpless Lee. Shino had his insects steal answers from him, as Kiba did with Akamaru. Of course, Naruto ignored these attempts. The old man had been clear. The watchers from Konoha had orders not to penalize their countrymen, or the ninjas whose lands were allied with the Leaf. Of course, the proctors from the other villages had obviously received similar instructions. Shikamaru and Chuji bothered him the most, however. None of them had written anything since they were put side by side. Either they were lazy or, the Nara figured it out and informed Chuji as soon as he could. Naruto realized, guessing Ino was too far away to have received the info. Due to secret rules, anyone could pass if he stayed for the 10th question, meaning the two would pass without having to write anything. I have the feeling Shikamaru at least is going to make Chunin by the end of this ordeal. Other teams were noteworthy. A guy from Suna could manipulate sand to spy on others, while his teammate used a puppet to transfer information to the girl of the group. A Kirinin could turn his body into water to steal a copy, and a Kusanin was glancing at both Naruto and Fu. The gaze was especially disturbing. The boy's emotionless face betrayed no intent, but the eyes conveyed pure, deadly fascination. The blonde shuddered when the boy switched targets, answering the test's questions as if they were a little inconvenience instead of the insanely hard problems they were supposed to be. His teammate, who looked like a transsexual, noticed the Jinchuriki duo as well and faked a kiss, creeping them out. Better keep an eye on those two, the QB's vessel told his friend. She nodded before smirking. I noticed a lot of cheating here. Want to see which of us can eliminate the most twits? Be my guest. When the test was over, half the participants had been expelled. And a quarter of the teams owed it to Fu and Naruto. You won, the girl admitted. It was a close call, but you got one more team than me. You weren't bad at all, he chuckled, as their victims sent them one last glare before leaving. Ibiki finished acting out his comedy play, and later, explained the hidden motives of the test. 3, 2, 1, the window exploded into shards, and steam filled the room. Many genin put themselves on guard before the mist dissipated, revealing a familiar giant. The marvelously, beautifully, awesomely wonderful god known as the Han shall explain your next test. The Gobi's vessel proclaimed loudly, having written his name with red paint on the wall behind him, and over the top of a few frozen examiners. Battles to the death in the forest of death. Blood will be shed. Bears will eat your intestines, and the proctor shall gamble on who dies. Which will be everybody who doesn't exit this classroom in the next minute. He cracked his fists. Death. Instantly, the qualified teams exited the place as fast as they could, running away from the crazy Jinchuriki. As he saw them leave, Naruto proudly waved at his former classmates. They had all managed to pass, the Kusa team as well. Hey, the Han, Naruto asked him, once the proctors were the only ones left. Why did you ask to be a proctor? Tell me the reason. Did you notice the red-haired tanuki who could control sand? As Naruto nodded, the giant explained himself. He's Gaara, the Ichibi's vessel. The Han got info on him before he left IWA, and wanted to examine him. The teen blinked briefly, before correcting his expression. He looks quite cold. The rumors said he was mad, and the Han wanted to confirm them or not. The giant shrugged. The Han wants to speak with him, if he turns out to be a nice guy. I see. Naruto frowned. Did you receive info about one of the Kusanin teams? One duo especially disturbs me. As the Han shook his head, the ninja got a bad feeling about it. This is boring. Fu complained loudly, as the Jinchuriki trio waited before the screens. It has been 1 hour and no amazing fight yet. Guess we will have to wait a bit. Naruto shrugged. Wasn't Gaara's fight awesome enough? He deadpanned. The girls shuddered. As it turned out, the rumors of his mental instability weren't rumors. The guy had gruesomely slaughtered a team from AIM, after they had surrendered their scroll to him. And if his face was to be believed, the Chunin had deeply enjoyed the experience. Perhaps in a sexual way, Han had decided not to get anywhere near him. Ah, my shining friend, here you are. Guy loudly announced as he opened the room's door, a big grin written over his face. Salutations. I see you have brought new youthful friends to the party, Guy-sensei. Naruto politely waved at him, before giving a light tap to the other Jinchuriki. This is Fu, and the Han. The Han, Fu, this is Guy, the strongest taijutsu user in Konoha. The Han heard of him, the giant said. He was the champion of the International Wrestling League before retiring to teach. An example for all of us. Oh, a fellow taijutsu user? Guy gave them the nice guy pose. If you wish, we can make the fires of your hard work shine like the sun. The Han is pleased to see you have such wonderful friends, Naruto, the former IWA nin said. Oh no. Fu almost cried. There are 2 of them. It sucks to be sane, Naruto confirmed. Hey, Guy-sensei, congratulations. Your team passed with flying colors. Indeed. I am so proud of them. 1 year of tireless work paid off. He sat next to the trio, smiling. I hope they will all make Chunin. They all deserve such a promotion. Those 3 together will probably waste anyone in their way to the tower, Naruto whispered. Except perhaps Gaara. But they're in opposite areas on the map, so a confrontation is highly unlikely. I told them to seek out Kakashi's team in priority. Guy chuckled happily. This way, I shall prove to my rival my students are better than his. That shouldn't be too hard. In serious combat, Team Guy was a juggernaut, and while Sasuke was very good, the Sharingan wouldn't be enough to keep up with Lee. Sai would be a difficult opponent. If Naruto's suspicions were correct, then he would keep his strength hidden to deal with more dangerous threats to the Uchiha's life. Speaking of Lee, Naruto pointed a finger at one of the screens. It appears he has engaged an opponent. The green wild beast of Konoha was currently dodging explosive kunai, while Niji and Tenten were hiding in the trees, using their teammate as bait to catch their attacker. Their enemies seemed fond of bows, Fu pointed out, as arrows flew before the camera. Naruto found the scene strange, but couldn't explain why, until the attacker walked into the camera's field of view. He was an archer, clad in a camouflage outfit, one of Naruto's. Team Lee was fighting him. The hell? Fu voiced his thoughts. What's happening? Naruto frowned and focused. These moves, these reactions. I get it, he told the three others. It's the recording of one of our old training sessions. Someone messed with the camera of the area to fool the watchers. Pretty wicked. Guy instantly dropped his usual cheerful demeanor and adopted a serious pose. This means something bad is happening, he whispered, something the responsible party does not want the Hokage to know. Guy-sensei, you would better warn the rest of the Jounin, Naruto told him. Fu the Han, you want to see what's going on first? If we hurry, we could interrupt whatever is happening, and then get back up later. The two Jinchuriki simply nodded and rose up from their seats. Sasuke could never forget this scent. Blood. Fresh blood. His blood. Sakura had fallen first, her body torn apart by a volley of explosive kunai. Sai and Sasuke had managed to last slightly longer, the former showing depths of talent the Uchiha had never suspected. His paintings grew to colossal size, and in combination with fireballs, the duo seemed, for a brief instant, to have turned the tide of the battle in their favor. Their attackers shattered the illusion the hard way, by tearing Sai in half with pressurized water, before burning his remains with a flamethrower. And then he assaulted Sasuke in close combat. While Sasuke simply wasn't good enough to block the blows, each powerful enough to shatter his bones, the Sharingan kept track of each and every strike. The first broke his left arm, as he tried to block. A kick dislocated the bones in his right leg, and two punches ravaged his chest and face. The last blow had been powerful enough to dislocate Sasuke's jaw. Strings of chakra restrained him against the tree's trunk, preventing him from moving. Easy, Sasori, a man with a deathly pale skin and reptilian golden eyes whispered softly. That may be my new vessel you're damaging there. You will find a better one, Orochimaru, the vicious ninja snorted. It was a redhead teenager looking slightly older than Naruto, with beautiful, yet cold, green eyes. Both he and his partner were wearing black cloaks and hoods. This Uchiha is nothing impressive. I'm beginning to wonder if Itachi was truthful when he told us he spared him for being a waste of his time. Sasuke's rage awakened at the mention of his hated brother, but the pain prevented him from acting upon it. Orochimaru of the Sannin chuckled at the spectacle. For an Uchiha who wasn't trained in the use of the Sharingan by relatives and forced to study under that failure Kakashi, he is remarkably dangerous. He has potential, which Sarutobi-sensei foolishly let go to waste. Well, I guess it is time for Tobi to pinpoint our location and evacuate us, the puppeteer shrugged. I do not like to why he stopped. Orochimaru grinned wickedly, which alarmed Sasuke. Naruto-kun, he said to the bushes mirthfully, it is truly bad of you to listen in on private discussions. And insulting of our skills. The Uchiha heard a groan, and much to his surprise, Naruto Uzumaki walked into sight, looking positively annoyed he had been noticed so easily. Sasuke wanted to shout him to flee as fast as he could, but he couldn't even open his lips. So, 2's rank missing Nin ganging up on a genin team, he glanced at the mauled remains of Team 7. You're not really big on fair play, are you? The single most important rule in battle is to win, point, Sasori replied, turning on himself to better face the newcomer. But you know this the best out of all of us, don't you? I guess it runs in the family. He glared at Orochimaru. I told you not to attract his attention with your mockeries. Admit it, the face he did upon seeing me fake a kiss was priceless, the snake chuckled. So you were the creepy Kusanin. I'm very curious how you managed to keep your disguise for so long, and did not pay me a visit. Naruto glared at Sasori in distaste. The displeasure is all mine, cousin.